So this is another in the series of We Told You So. Mayor Ted Wheeler, esteemed mayor of Portland, declares state of emergency over increased gun violence. We have got a state of emergency? How did we get here? I don't know. Yeah, right? I mean, this is kind of one of those things. Portland defunded their police department. Not looking good, is it? Literally, some of the stats in this article are pretty wild. You're like, oh, yeah, that's not good. This is what we're doing a deep dive on today. And we're also going to talk about Portland's recent hire of 16 cops, which just sounds great. Hey, let's have a celebration. But we need to have that month after month after month for a few years before a Portland or a Seattle police department is going to be able to get back on track and, have a net positive number of police officers relative to their existing forces right now, which are wildly depleted. Let's jump on in. Enough of the chit chat. Let's get going. All right. So the city that wanted to defund the police 2 years ago, we told you, is now declaring a state of emergency over increased gun violence. It is not a laughing matter, but I mean, how many times have we talked about this? This isn't going to work out well. And it hasn't. A state of emergency. We've got a state of emergency here in King County due to fentanyl. Portland's got a state of emergency because of shooting. Residents shooting each other. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler declared a state of emergency this afternoon. This is on Thursday in an effort to reduce the wave of gun violence that has swept the city in recent years. Well, declaring a state of emergency and hiring, 400 or 500 extra cops and putting them out on the street, that might help. But anything short of that, you say you got a state of emergency, you're going to bring in some extra research. What are you really going to do there? I mean, this is just, train wreck, right? Train wreck in slow motion. There were 673 shootings in the first half of 2022, double the number from the same period 3 years earlier, double the number from 2019, just before the pandemic. Double. When you're talking about shootings, that is incredible, right? We will not stop until gun violence stops, said Wheeler. Well, I'm going to say, Mayor Ted, that you'll be out of office before these numbers actually start to go the direction we want to see them, which is anywhere remotely close to down. Will not stop until gun violence stops, said Wheeler, noting that Portland's rate of gun violence has risen far faster than peer cities such as Minneapolis and San Francisco. Weird, right? I mean, weird. Portlandia. How did we go from Portlandia to shooting capital of the nation? Crazy stuff, right? I mean, again, we kind of told you this might happen. Hey, you defund the police, you don't have enough cops, the criminals are going to kind of do their thing. And oftentimes, they shoot each other or other people or cops sometimes. Shooting down in Portland this past weekend. Oh, what brutal. Yeah, people just, Yeah, you pull out a gun during an arrest and you are not a cop, that is not going to end well. You crank a round off of that gun, that's not going to go anywhere positive, right? The latest emergency declaration was prompted by a data analysis of shootings and homicides in the city from the beginning of 2019 through 2021. The chart on this, Portland homicides, 2002 to 2021, it goes in mainly, a pretty definable trench. You've got the data, okay, a little up, little down, little up, little down. And then we've just got this spike. I mean, we've got an *Knievel, ramp that he's going to take his motorcycle off. That guy was the shit back in the day, right? Just motorcycle ramp, boom. Yeah. So what's interesting is how fast that spike has gone just over the course of the previous, call it 20 years. All of a sudden, we had this massive uptick. Some would say, well, we've got social issues going on. Yeah, that and a bunch of knuckleheads running around shooting each other. Yeah. And while it's true that homicide was up around the country, we don't want to be reasonable. Starting in the summer of 2020, this chart shows the problem is dramatically worse in Portland than in the state or the U.S. as a whole. So it's not all of Oregon. And it's like some of the violence going on in Seattle. It's not all of Western Washington. I'm seeing more and more homeless people here in Bellevue, and I think Seattle is shipping them over. We need to do that thing where the politicians in Texas are shipping their illegal aliens off to D.C. We need to just ship our homeless right back over. You're just going to have homeless people in the buses left and right? When compared to peer cities, Portland had the highest percentage increase in the homicide rate. Portland, 207% increase. This is a homicide rate. 207% increase. Minneapolis, which is noted for its levels of escalated violence, 104% increase. So Portland is literally almost double. I am no mathematician, but if you cut 207 in half, you get really close to 104, right? Atlanta had a 54% increase. San Francisco, 53% increase. Denver, mile high, 47% increase. Nashville, 23% increase. So these numbers are escalated, but not Portlandia numbers, right? I got a squeak going on here. What's going on? That's going to be either annoying to me or probably annoying to you. Atlanta still has an overall higher rate of homicides, but in terms of the increase, Portland is the outlier. Portland is off the charts and not in a category that you can be proud of. You don't even get a participation ribbon for that one. There's also a breakdown of the victims and suspects in this crime wave by sex and race. Here again, there's a clear outlier, which I'm guessing no one in the city will want to talk about. As you can see, African Americans make up 6% of the city's population, which is very, very close to King County. African Americans make up 6% between 6 and 7% here in King County, but constitute 41% of homicide suspects and 58% of non-fatal shooting suspects. All right. Yeah. Well, we're not going to talk about that because, we're just not really in a political environment where anybody wants to actually do anything about it. We just want to talk about it and say, oh, geez, gun violence is horrible. And let's just ratchet down the ability of Americans to get guns, get their hands on guns. That'll solve it. Nah, these shootings are going on by folks who, the legal handgun, it's not really a thing, is it? This chart is pretty clearly telling you that where the bulk of this problem is happening is in terms of neighborhoods. So, and to be clear, these same neighborhoods are also where most of the victims of this violence will be found. Yeah, right? Black residents make up 39% of the homicide victims and 49% of shooting victims. But given that this is happening as the progressive Northwest, so you have to wonder if the city will allow police to make stops, searches, and arrests that are similarly disproportionate by race, or if doing so will be deemed problematic. So we've got this emphasis on quelling the gun violence, but then we don't seem to take it that step further and go, okay, what is the dealio? Let's take a look at the data. Let's take a hard look at the data, because I'm looking at that, and like the article says, there are some neighborhoods where this is happening in a much, much greater level than other neighborhoods. So what does that mean? I think if you look at the leadership within these communities, they're like, we got to do something. But then everybody else is kind of just looking in from the outside going, well, not really sure what to do here. And we're not in a political position where we can really emphasize on what's going on, because to do so would probably single out a single community. Nobody really wants to go down that road. And I'm being very careful here because we don't want to go down a road that looks like it is, we're trying to hammer on a certain group. We're not trying to do that. But the data, like Ben Shapiro says, facts don't care about your feelings. And that's what we're kind of looking at here is we got some facts going on that are clearly, not good. Additionally, charts in the report show that nearly 2/3 2/3 of the suspects in these shootings and homicide cases, 2/3, roughly 66.66%, are already involved with the criminal justice system. These are not random shootings by just Joe Schmo at home, just hanging out in his suburban home in Portland, right? 2/3 of the suspects in these shootings and homicide cases are involved with the criminal justice system, meaning they have been in prison or on probation for previous crimes. And that's what I can tend to focus on. These are career criminals doing a lot of this. And when you let these career criminals go back out on the street, guess what? Yeah, it's not going to be good. You let them shoot each other and then you let them go back on the streets. Okay. It's kind of like you get what you pay for. You defund the police and then you let these career criminals go because that's the way your justice system is operating. What has happened? What does the data show has happened? 207%. Do you need to say anything more than that? That is some pretty empirical evidence that, okay, here is the magic formula to make your community unsafe. Defund the police. Just let them do whatever the F they want. Shoot each other. That's okay. You guys will be good. 2 thumbs up. Because that's literally what's going on, right? So this chart shows a list of some of the previous crime suspects were involved in before they graduated to murder or attempted murder. We're just letting these guys go. Hey, and they are encouraged by their, forward moving path of they're not in jail. They're not in prison. They're just out on the streets doing their thing. So we've got percentages here of some things that we've got going on. Drug convictions are very high percentage of the folks that are doing the shooting and being shot. Disorder, yep. Property means stealing or vandalizing, whatever. You've got some unarmed violence. You got some nonviolent firearm. You got some disorder, a little bit of sex industry, not a lot of that, just a little bit of fraud. And then you got a bunch of other crimes. But yeah, you've got property theft, you've got drugs, and you've got disorder. Super high in there before they graduated to shooting one another. In any case, violent crime has doubled, and Mayor Wheeler's plan is to see a 10% decrease in crime over the next 2 years. All right. So he's basically trying to stop the bleeding, but Portland's still going to be bleeding out. If you can get a 10% decrease in crime, that would be awesome because, things are going, that Evel Knievel ramp just straight up to the moon. We need a much bigger than 10% decrease to make Portland safe again. But that's a solid start. And that's a really good goal. I don't think it'll happen. I think you will see crime rise even further because, all right, let's jump over. Let's just take a wild jump and let's look at the Portland Police Bureau hires 16 police officers. This was one of those first things where we're actually getting a little tiny bit of positive news for the Portland Police Bureau. And I think a lot of this had to do with those $25,000 lateral bonuses. Okay, great. We're getting some fresh blood in as far as from somewhere else. They're getting their payday and they're going to go work for the Portland Police Bureau. Excellent. But these guys still got to, and gals, they got to go through all those background checks and all that, all that stuff before they get hired on. So do all 16 make it? I don't know. It's a process. And Portland is already down so many police officers, just like Seattle, that you're going to need literally month after month after month of positive net gain 16 cops, 16 cops, 16 cops. You need to keep that going. So while this is, cause for celebration by Chief Chuck Lavelle, I mean, at this point in time, I think Portland takes anything as a celebration, goes, yep, all right, at least that's positive. Let's run with that. You know what I mean? Because everything has been just so, what's going on here? Today, this is what Chuck Lavelle said about that. Today was probably one of the best, Chief Chuck Lavelle, one of the best days I've had as chief. We hired 16 police officers, 1 public safety support specialist, and recognized 7 new professional staff members. We also promoted 2 officers to the rank of detective. Thank you to our recruitment team, background investigators, everyone in personnel and strategic communications unit who are working so hard on our hiring effort. We hope to have several more larger hiring events moving forward, and I'm excited about the hope that this brings. So that is positive. That is positive. But the realistic look is it's almost, you don't want to say it, but it's like a day late, dollar short. Okay, you guys are wildly behind the 8 ball. 16 cops, good. Get them on the ground. Get them going. But we're already down so many. How long is it going to take? And is 16 a month sustainable? No, it's not. I mean, not even close. I think this is a short run for that $25,000. But maybe that, and I've talked with some of you who are members of police community down in Portland. What is it going to take for Portland to be able to entice other officers to come in? And maybe it is 25 grand. I was thinking about 25 grand. If I'm going to change jobs, I'm going to get a hiring bonus, 25 grand. I mean, I could do some damage with that. You know what I mean? You could buy a lot of stuff. You can buy some cool stuff. I mean, it's a lot of money. That's a good chunk of change. And if you're already going to make a move, now the real question is all right, so we know what the return is. It's 25 grand. You get that, however you get that, which is taxable, I believe, right? Is that not? It's got to be. It's a bonus, right? So you got taxable 25 grand. Okay. All right. Maybe you're a cop making a lot of money because you're doing the overtime thing. Everybody knows cops are just doing a lot of overtime, unless you're on vacation. And by vacation, I put in air quotes. Yeah. Police officers are on vacation, forced vacation. How about that? All right. Anywho, enjoy your vacation if you're one of those cops doing that right now. So you've got this event where you got 16 police officers, which is great, but that's a drop in the hat, drop in the bucket, right? Drop in the hat. It's a hat in the bucket. None of that makes any sense at all, but that's the point. Neither does this. It's good. And it's newsworthy. And I had heard about this being a rumor. Hey, maybe between 10 and 15 are going to come on board. You still got to get them through the process. And guess what? You're going to have a handful quit. I think a handful are supposed to dip out from Portland police. Like right now, towards the end of July, I believe a number were set to retire. I mean, not a number, quite a few were set to retire. Maybe that's not going to happen. But hey, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. And so I'm going to say, we won't take a victory lap, but we will hold this up as, okay, at least at one point in time in recent months, in the last couple of years, Portland's got, we're going to throw Portland a W for cops. And you know what I mean? But like I said, you're going to have a ton more of this in order to even out that scale. Cause this has been, if you're looking in, if you're concerned about public safety at all, this has not been a good window of opportunity. It's been an excellent window of opportunity for the bad guys, but not the good guys. So let's go back and take a quick peek and see what else we've got here going on. The listed goal of the plan, we're back to Mayor Ted. Mayor Ted is, he is responsible. He is personally responsible for a lot of this nonsense. Just straight up, he is personally responsible. So that's the way I see it. I mean, you've also got a city council that's just like city council in Washington. You've got some real knuckleheads. And a lot of those folks, I hold them as personally responsible also. Because like we said at the beginning of this podcast, and so many, we kind of saw this coming, and we're going to sit here and say, we told you. Because that's literally what we did. Yeah, that's not going to end well. That whole defund the police thing, that's probably not going to end up well. And guess who it's not going to end up well for? The communities on the lower end of the socioeconomic brackets, communities of color, and that's literally what we're talking about. The listed goal of the plan is to reduce shootings and killings by at least 10% over the next 2 years. All right. Any kind of reduction at this point in time would be a win, right? And a win in the sense that, okay, at least it's still not going up, but 10% reduction. And we are already, so elevated with our numbers that a 10% reduction, it's like, okay, we went from really high to just moderately really high, whatever that is. It's all relative. KGW, the media, asked if a reduction of 10% is a high enough goal to counteract the sharp increase of shootings in Portland. That is my thought. And it's like, all right, so you're bleeding out just a little bit less, but you're still bleeding out. And it's not going to be good. You still need major triage, right? So if 10% is going to counteract the sharp increase in shootings in Portland, which includes a 207% increase in the rate of gun violence since 19, here's the response. We hope to do much, much better than that, but it's also a statement of acknowledgement that there are many factors that come into play, Wheeler said. This is political nonsense speak, right? It's a complex issue. Is it? Is it really that complex? Let's see. Let's figure out who's shooting each other. Where are they doing that? All right. Yeah, maybe we hone in on that area a little bit more. No, that's not what we're doing, and that's probably not what we're going to do. But it's also a statement of acknowledgement that there are many factors that come into play, Wheeler said. It's a complex issue, and it's going to take time and energy. We've got a lot of work to do. It's going to take time and energy. I think I could rewrite this speech as we talk here, particularly if you're talking about one-on-one interventions with that group of individuals who are likely to engage in and or be impacted by gun violence. Some political speak, right? So I see that as a floor, as a baseline. Here's our floor. Here's our baseline. Here's where we're headed. Here's our timeline. We're all working together. There's no I in team. Speech over. Right? Mayor Ted, you caused this. What are you personally going to do? What are you personally going to do to make this better for all those people that voted you in? Huh. Yeah. Now, I guess they got what they paid for, right? Wheeler isn't really shooting for the moon here. He's just trying to manage the ongoing disaster his leadership has helped create. I 100% agree with that. He created a disaster. He's got to manage it. And now 10% reduction in, gun violence and criminal violence. Yeah. And that's if you can get to 10%. I don't think they're going to get to 10% anytime soon. Got to hire some more cops. You got to turn this thing around, and you're going to have to actually put some people in jail. You have to arrest some people and put some people in jail. And you're going to have to, you're going to have to convict people. You're actually going to have a justice system that works. And I don't think Seattle isn't doing it. Portland's certainly not doing it. So why wouldn't these numbers keep going up? Until you get this equation a little bit more squared away, until you get a few more cops out there and you actually convict some people, and you're going to have to send a bunch of people to jail, prison. I don't see Portland doing that. I think they want to talk a lot about it, just like we're doing here. That little speech I did. I mean, you just want to have speeches so that you can tell people, oh, geez, yeah, had another shooting this weekend. It was horrific. But don't worry, we're on the pathway we're shooting for a goal of 10% reduction in violence. But in the meantime, those numbers don't seem to be going in that direction. They're still doing the Evel Knievel ramp, right? How about when Evel Knievel tried to jump over the Grand Canyon? It didn't work out. That guy was nuts. He was quite simply nuts. And I followed every single one of his events as a kid. He's a motorcycle guy. Yeah, he had the flag outfit, got that big V flag going down. He got the flag helmet. I mean, that's America right there, right? He's had just some wildly souped up motorcycle, and he'd broken every bone in his body. The days of Evel Knievel. I had one of those little wind up things. I think I've talked about that with the Evel Knievel bike that you launch and it just goes. Yeah, that was cool. That was one of my favorite toys as a kid. Evel Knievel. I need to get one of those. Wonder if I can get a retro one or whatever. I don't know. But anywho, Portland. Yeah, that's going to take some time. And we're going to be doing podcasts on this forever. Guaranteed. For those of you who are on the right side of this equation in Portland, you guys are doing what you can do. That's all you can do. I don't know what else to say. Mayor Ted doesn't really either, other than declaring an emergency. And what's that going to do? Now, it's going to allow a focus on this issue, and we'll see where it goes from there. But my hopes aren't too high. And again, I am a glass full kind of guy. But it's going to take a while to unwind this. 16 cops hiring. Yeah. All right. Step in the right direction. I will report back to you when something else comes up on this, and guarantee you it will. All right. Thanks for being here. We'll catch up soon. Talk then. Bye for now.